We're here today with multi-platinum selling artist Kip Moore, who's on a sold-out tour across Canada. And Kip, I wanted to ask you a few questions from the perspective of an emerging artist. When it comes to the journey to Slow Heart, making that record, you were very bold about the concept of getting your head and your heart right, so you could get your art right.
Yeah.
And in a business where people are focused on making it, they're focused on the commercialism of it, they forget how important that ability to get back to the authentic being actually is.
Yeah, I mean, we're all very different as artists. I think there's a lot of artists that are definitely in it for the love of the music and the right reasons, and you got a lot of people that are just chasing fame. And I think people are chasing fame more than ever right now.
Why is that?
Yeah, I just think that's
Instagram culture?
I do think that that's always somewhat been like that. We've always craved, it's become so rampant because anyone now can become insta famous. They can become, people are just doing whatever it takes to become famous. So whatever that means, whatever song you want to, whatever. But for me, I always wanted to be great at what I did. I always wanted to be a great writer. I wanted to be a great musician. I wanted to be a good singer. So I've worked tirelessly to be those things, and I've always wanted to be authentic with what I'm feeling at that particular time in my life, musically, spiritually, whatever it is, the things that I'm feeling, be authentic in when I'm doing the music. Mm-hmm. And I've always known that I was never going to be probably like the commercial darling in that sense, because I think that when you do that, I just think there's a difference in that, and it's awesome when I do have commercial success because it definitely helps grow the fan base. You bring in people that might not have known about you, that get a chance to see what you do. But I think that, when you truly don't line up all those things like you were just saying, I think that's when you can really fall victim to the minute that you're not having that commercial success. That's when things can really slide out underneath you and you see that the whole thing's been a smoke and mirror the whole time.
Yeah, and you've walked the walk on that too. Like early on, before you had songs that people would have recognized on radio, when you'd go out and play live shows, you played your own stuff. You were never doing the cover band thing.
Yeah. Tonight, we'll do one cover in the show, we're playing 2-hour sets every night. Even when I was, before I even had an actual record out, when I would go open for people, CAA was putting me on stuff 2 years before I had a record deal. I was playing my own music, and I remember kind of getting into it with my dad about that, I see so many new artists going out, and they're having their chance. It's their 45-minute slot, and I get it. I understand the pressure of you've only got one record. I understand the pressure of wanting to get a crowd involved, but the minute you're doing 3 and 4 or 5 covers in your 45-minute set, if you're trying to be an original artist, you're shooting your own self in the foot because ain't nobody gonna remember shit about you. That's the truth. Like you're just another guy singing some massive songs at that point, and you trick yourself. You think that you're doing something
because you're getting the immediate response.
Yeah, you're getting the immediate response, but it's not. My thing was always that I knew that by doing that, it was going to be a slower growth for me. I knew that, but I felt like it would have been real. I knew that if I was going and opening in a 1,000-seat club for Rodney Atkins and I was only getting 40-45 minutes, and I just put a record out, even before I had the record, I still would only do like one cover in the set because my thing was, okay, if I can get 100 to 200 people to really hear what I'm doing out of these 1,000, I'll lose the other 800. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. And I can get those 100 people and start making an army, and that was always my thing. And I still, to this day, have those people that come to shows and they remember the songs I played 7, 8, 9 years ago. So that's when it all started. You just had to kind of have the vision to see it kind of happening.
Any other advice that you would give an emerging artist who is trying to balance that line between making a living, being somewhat commercial, and retaining the fidelity to their authenticity and their art? That's a balance.
I'll be honest, Jim. Like I've always been like really weary of giving advice because my path it's worked for me. But I don't know if that's the right path and that's their path. I can say that for me, I can answer your question as with me it was. I've had a knack with melodies. I feel like I can do melodies, and I've always I've worked tirelessly to become a good lyricist. But melodies was always my thing, and for me it was I studied tirelessly. I mean, I was always, before I had like a full-time music job, I mean, I'd work my other job and I'd listen to records all through the night, but I wouldn't just turn on the record and just do, like, I was studying. I was trying to understand. Tom Petty is one of the best ever at these amazing melodies that are so simplistic and they speak right to the point, but there's such an authenticity in everything he's doing, and you believe everything he's saying. Not only does he sing it with conviction, but it's coming up with unique ways to say something very direct. And so I would just study like his arrangements, all those things. And for me, it was becoming a complete student of the craft, of the people that you love and the people that have made a living doing it the right way. To me,
and that's a totally different impetus than just wanting to be famous.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, for me, it was I wanted to be able to move people the way those records moved me. That was why I got into it. It was, I remember going to my first Springsteen show when I was like 22, 23, and just being like, holy shit, what is this? And I'd heard Springsteen songs growing up. My dad had played them, my uncle would play them, but, it was just, there was such an honesty in what he was doing, and you just looked around and you saw it through the crowd, and there was no bells and whistles and fire and jumping out of shit, and it was just like him on stage with a few lights, man, and just tearing it apart. So for me it was, I wanted to do that. Like, I wanted to be able to, when I listened to that Bob Seger record when I was a kid for the first time that I stole from my dad, it was like, man, I don't even know. I hadn't lived enough life to even feel what he was singing about, but it made me feel something. So my thing was I always wanted to do that. I would rather play big theaters and have this crazy rabid fan base that holds on to every word and sings all these album cuts every night than, and I can honestly say it, than to sell out a football stadium of people just kind of singing along,
gravitating to a couple of radio hits.
We all want radio hits.
Yeah.
But Tom Petty had radio hits, but they had meat behind them.
Yeah.
Stapleton just had a big hit. It's got meat behind it. Church has had hits with meat behind them. My thing was just I've never wanted to just. There's a difference for me. Like, what I'm getting at is with when people are just singing songs and when people are shouting them from their gut. There's a completely different thing, and I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've watched it.
From their soul.
For me, it's always been that. I always wanted to make people do that.
Yeah.
So I would much rather, the career note never go past what we're doing now, 2,000 to 4,000 seat nights, but having that passion behind it, then it just be kind of singing along and texting on their phone, stuff they've heard, but that didn't really impact them in any kind of way.
Yeah. Well, you are certainly having an impact in Canada. Thanks for prioritizing this market and taking an international strategy on your career from day one.
Yeah.
It's certainly resonating with the fans, and thanks for your words of wisdom today.
Thank you for all you do. Well, take care.